Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Terran in the red. It's Oliveira, up against the increasingly frequent antagonist, the Zerg in the blue, the underling. It is SHIN. A best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown on the new proposed StarCraft 2 patch. Currently on the public test realm, we've got some strong thoughts on it, but I've got some strong thoughts on asking you, before we start, to smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. And Jimmy, what are we... No, don't complain about Protoss right now. 1,452 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll make some new patch now. I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's bound to get just a little bit better. We're not going to go over each and every patch note to start. You can check out my video on that. I stand by pretty much all those comments. But some basic implications for Terran versus Zerg. You can now salvage missile turrets, as well as sensor towers. And sensor towers are much cheaper, but have less radius. Queens! Yes, Brenda. Queens are more expensive. 175 minerals. Hatchery is only 275, though, so kind of balances out, at least until you build more than 3 queens. They did not get a speed buff. They still have joint pain off a creep. And the Zerglings, almost able to take out that first Reaper. Another queen, not quite out. SHIN, instead of opting for your standard hatch first, he got his pool and then a hatch and now follows it up. Already adapting his build somewhat. The Reaper, a little bit too deep. Get off my creep. So the queens, a little bit more expensive. The hatcheries, a small discount, so kind of evens out in the early game, but as time goes on, it's going to be a little harder. Though I don't think it's going to be super noticeable. It's just one of those things where Zerg will just have a couple less drones as time goes on. Will they stop building queens? Well, when there are still air units and other basic things before lair tech to defend, I don't think they can really afford to, no matter how much it costs. Now, for Terran, in the later game, the Liberator, advanced ballistics, the range upgrade got nerfed. A little. But it does now increase the radius of the Liberator to a significant degree, as well as the Smart Servos upgrade allows you to siege and unsiege it faster, which is certainly quite a mixed bag. So the effective range reduction is less than 1, but the radius increase is 56%. So I know those are two different sorts of numbers, but it is quite noticeable if we get there. Another thing, the orbital command now has, extra supplies. The supply drop ability now can increase the health and heal your supply depots. But unfortunately, this is a nerf because now the orbital command has 3 really good abilities instead of just 2. The Ghost exists. The Thor now has a slightly shorter range splash damage weapon. Oh my god. Not a time warp ability like apparently we just used. The Thor has kind of a new weapon with the explosive payload as the Zerglings are chasing it down. And trying to think soon. I believe, the Planetary Fortress has 1 less armor, so it's got that going for it. As for Zerg, besides the queen changes, the Spore Crawler has less HP, but does pretty significantly more damage, 15 to 20. Oh my. That Hellion just won't die. The Hydralisk now has slightly less speed on creep, but it has a dash ability, which they can lurch forward for a split second after researching it on Hive Tech. So, a 3rd Hydralisk upgrade has been added, but it is a Hive Tech upgrade, which means I assume SHIN will completely forget about it. Ultralisk can now shove units out of the way. We're actually testing Ultras being able to push other Zerg units out of the way, which they can kind of do now, but some major changes have been made to how that works. It looks interesting. Now Ultras can much more reliably run directly into their death, rather than getting tripped up on other units as much. I think I covered the majority of it there. I actually have it open on another tab, make sure I didn't miss anything. But those are the major changes. The Lurker, the Ghost, still very similar to their, no, exactly the same as their current iterations on the live game. The Hydra, besides that little bit of less speed as well. Lings and Banes still. Marines haven't had a change besides Stim being a little quicker since like 2016, so. Double medevac drop is the choice. So how do I think the patch is going to affect Terran versus Zerg, since we have just your standard sharking around? As you can see, SHIN not really pushed away from using too many queens. He's got 10 queens right now. His drone count is a little low for the current scenario. Maybe that's the effect of it, but queens are still going to be the mainstay. Terran against Zerg? I don't really see any reason to switch it up. In fact, the new Liberator with advanced ballistics is quite a thing to behold. I both look forward to and dread. Like, what do you call it when both at the same time? But I both don't want to see it at all, because I think it's... I'm going to go on the record here, and I think the change is very, very dumb for multiple reasons. But it is kind of hilarious when you see it. So I want to see it. I want them to whip it out, and then we'll see how big it is. And then, from there, we can draw our own conclusions on how to feel about it. As finally, we get to some of the action. Banelings, without speed, still not incredible. What am I? What? Those are not changelings. Those are real. And that is, no man left behind. Even if it means we have to die with him. Oliveira, quite committed. Hellion dies. Hydra's on the way. Remember that Hydra dash upgrade. And it is called dash, though in the game it has the icon of frenzy from the campaign. It kind of has that animation as well. I think we'll get there. Especially with how this game is going and both players clearly ramping up their economies. SHIN is notorious for staying on that lair mid-game tech. But recently, he's had a much more full-bodied sort of Zerg. So, Marines getting caught on one side, trying to drop out on the other. There's more than enough units back at home. But Oliveira just keeping those... That shift Q was optimistic. He's keeping those units kind of anchored. Where are you going? Nowhere. The Queens eat another medevac. As Marines still coming in for more. Infestation Pit is on the way for SHIN. And you see, one of my favorite changes, just a little thing, a little quality of life change. The scan and other sort of directional abilities like that, well, the scan and the sensor tower specifically, now have team-colored outline instead of just a white circle. So that's a little better than it was. Especially in team games, I think that'll be helpful. That's just a quality of life thing. But Widowmine gets a pretty huge hit, and the Zerglings are going to get cleaned up. A few SCVs go down, but SHIN's up to 92 drones. The Liberators, those are the normal ones. You'll know. Believe me. You'll know. The Liberator she tells you not to worry about. Wait for that fusion core. It still requires a fusion core for advanced ballistics. Okay. All right, we just took a breather. Oliveira had to consult the patch notes to know exactly how to get there. Smart Servos is on the factory tech lab, but it does affect that Liberator siege up. I'm not sure if there's a visual indicator on it. All right, well, the tank push is coming together. Oliveira's specialty. He's almost maxed out. He's got Widowmines covering the front line. He's got Liberators covering the tanks. He's got tanks also covering the tanks because the spread runs all the way back. SHIN just giving up this base. Lurker Den is about to complete. Hive closing in. Wow, all the tanks on siege. He just goes for it. Trying to take advantage. I don't know, Kev. He saw the tank sieging up. He decided this might be his moment. He decided wrong. Kills a few of the Marines. The Hydra Slings and Banes coming up again. The Liberators maybe a bit far forward. The Queen's pulled into the fray. And the Liberators will be taken down. The tanks doing terrible, terrible damage to the Lings and Banes. But overall, SHIN just has so many more units trickling in. Oliveira got a little far forward with the Liberators. They got picked off. It's just the Queens left behind. Inflation won't stop him from building slightly more expensive Queens, as they're really the whole thing tying the Zerg together. Without them, this push unlikely to be pushed back so reliably. But here we are. Get the upgrade, SHIN! Yeah, but now we see if these pro gamers even know they're playing on the new patch. Some players, especially Korean players, are notorious for not even paying attention. New maps, new patch. We're gonna do the same exact strategy we did the last 500 games. SHIN, no adrenal glands, despite having dozens of Zerglings on the field. No Hydra dash. Lurker range is on the way. Another base being attempted. Gets taken out though. SHIN down to 1, 2, 3, 5 bases, working on 6 on that close air distance. But Oliveira knows to keep an eye out. Come on, guys. Do one of the new upgrades. Both of them, well, balance is perfect as it is. So the sensor tower now has that salvage ability. You don't have the tooltips on, but you can see it there in the corner. But it has significantly less radius. So the sensor tower only costs 100 minerals and 50 gas, down from, I believe it was 150, 100, maybe 125, 100 before. So we've got like 30% less radius, but for significantly less cost. Lurkers pop out of the Nidus, Ghosts line up their shots, dodges away. SCV's pulled. Meanwhile, a drop gonna take down one of the hatcheries. A few Marines caught out in the center. Lurkers will finally be dealt with, but another Nidus comes up, and we've arrived! The Queen's inside, and now the Nidus. Now this is becoming a much larger problem. The Liberator sieging up. The Queens, though, pretty much out of energy. I don't think they got EMP'd. He's just been using so much of it. Looking for the Ghost Academy itself. Go back to school. What? Okay, here we... It's escalating, but the Liberators and the siege tanks have turned this from a pretty solid advantage for SHIN into a bit of a costly retreat. He does eventually pull back. He's able to replenish his army, but still no adrenal glands, still no Hydra dash. I do think it should be called, I just call it Frenzy, or I like Hydra Lurch, but I need him to upgrade it and actually use the well, at least the Lurker skin's really cool. For once, we get him to use the skins. Usually, players have an account with no skins or anything on it, where they default. Like, with default stuff, because for a while, tournaments didn't even allow you to use skins. Now we have, like, mods and stuff, or observer interfaces that show it only to spectators, but that is a lot of Lings and Banes, but that is a big Widowmine hit as well, which drives him back down the center. He tries again. A direct attack, but it just doesn't work out. 300 Zerglings have died so far. It's just the beginning. Liberator. One very fancy-looking Hydra. Would you guys get at least one of the upgrades? People got clickbaited into this game looking to complain about something. And so far, not even smart servos. I'll be honest, I don't expect SHIN to be getting a new upgrade when somehow he's still forgetting adrenal glands despite having literally hundreds of Zerglings. So, asking him to get a new high-tech upgrade may be a couple bridges too far. Oliveira, on the other hand, I'm kind of surprised is not working his way up the tech tree. He continues to keep the pressure on. Sending out Liberator, sending out Medivacs, but SHIN has been holding strongly. He's got plenty of supply, money in the bank, Spire on the way, another Nidus in the main. Oliveira, only 5 ghosts right now. Not adding any more. Lurkers, this is an odd-looking bunch. Oh, he's not adding any more because his Ghost Academy died during the Nidus attack, which Yeah, well, major oversight there by me, and Oliveira also didn't notice until I think he tried building more. SHIN now. Plenty. His economy looking very good. His supply strong as well. Obviously 200, but with money in the bank. Filling in the upgrades besides the most important and anticipated ones like adrenal glands and Hydra Dash. So one complaint I have is, can you see the sensor tower on the minimap? Ah, but that was a trick question. Can you see the sensor towers on the minimap? I think we may have to rethink. That was a sentence, arguably. Not a good sentence, but it was a sentence. There may need to be some rethinking of how that shows up. Just make it thicker, all right? Is that so much to ask? SHIN making his Spire great again. Still no adrenal glands. Still no Hydra Dash. Still... You guys! Oliveira is maxed out. Just feels like both players... It is one of those things where, especially in this matchup, the changes are, maybe besides the Liberator change, relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. Ultras are still not going to be a good choice against someone who's entrenched with siege tanks and ghosts. And the Liberators are definitely more of a regular option, so we'll see if Oliveira gets there. Ghost Cloak is now on the way. Another armory. Lurker's trying to come up, but this was a bait and switch over to the right side of things. Blasting his way through the planetary fortress. A little bit less armor on it. But thankfully there are more orbital commands nearby. He's gonna be perfectly fine. Greater Spire is done. Ghosts lining up across the board. He's got 15 ghosts now, but SHIN has a lot of money in the bank. Blue Flame. Oh yes, Blue Flame was buffed. I completely forgot about that one. But Blue Flame was buffed to do plus 9 damage bonus against light, as opposed to plus 5. On top of the Hellion already getting a bonus. Allows you to two-shot all workers. How exciting. The Liberators. Lurker's just slicing through the edge of the main. Gets another armory. But the Ghosts, not being interrupted, he's able to pop back into the Nidus. Most of the Lurkers escape. And can use the Nidus network to jump on the defense. Repositioning his Lurkers so quickly. Sees another army. Goes, those Vipers still have full energy. Planetary just crumbles. But the ghost count is ridiculous. 18 ghosts, but 13 Broodlords and 4 Infestors on the way. Well, that is certainly one way to deal with it. SHIN with plenty of minerals, but not much gas at all. The ghost count is ridiculously high. And the Viper on the run. Needs a scan. Still has 5 orbitals. Snipes out a line of Lurkers. Still 1 behind the mineral line of the 4th, 5th base. A whole bunch more Banes. Still no adrenal glands. Still no... You guys! Why are you like this? This is pro gamers in a nutshell, though. Give it a few weeks. But the Broodlords come swinging in. Where are the Overseers? He has plenty. He's not going like Mass Changeling, but he has plenty of those as well. And with the Infestors, Fungal catches a couple Ghost Broodlords. Oh yeah, Broodlords got buffed / bug fixed. So, Broodlings have more HP, and there was a bug, somewhat puns intended, where Broodlords were not doing their full attack speed at range. So generally, and you know what? Bias caster. Broodlords being slightly stronger I would say slightly to moderately. We'll see if there's a noticeable difference. As Brood Lords, when you're up against a low economy Terran, are still a very strong closing option. But he is up against the mass ghosts. SHIN loving those Brood Lords lately. The Liberators are sieging up. There's really not much anti-air at all. The Infestor's a bit late on the draw. The Broodlings lasting a bit longer. Gotta check those patch notes again. Is it... Did they get their time buffed? Or was it the health? Or was it both? Meanwhile, Zerglings breaking through. The Broodlord... Broodling HP. Oh, yes. And the Broodling HP was increased, not the time they last. As well as the attack speed of the Broodlord itself was buffed by about 20%. That is assuming you're constantly sitting there and just raining down, but that's kind of an insane buff. You know what? I've turned the tables on that one. That is a bit ridiculous. I am very much on the record of not favoring Broodlord and Fester, but SHIN right here is a big favor. He favors winning. And against this sort of composition, the Ghosts are trying to get into position, but those Infestors underneath, all he needs is to fungal once at the right time, and the Ghost count may crumble. The Thors have a new splash damage mode weapon, but it has less range than before, so high impact mode is still very much going to be the choice against Broodlords. He just doesn't have that many units. SHIN is just grinding across. I am not loving what I'm seeing here, but I am liking how effective SHIN is playing, despite both players literally ignoring every single new thing that was added to the pack. This is how SHIN was playing against Clem. Oh my. Well, the ground army does pretty well. The Ghost, though, find an opportunity. The Overseer's a little out of position. And that Thor is still pounding its way through. Wow, the Thor is amazing against Brutes. He finally targets it. There's just not enough left. All right. Game 1 goes to SHIN. And both players embodying professional gamers in about every sense. In almost completely ignoring the fact we're playing on a relatively significant new patch. And just kind of playing the game with it. Well, it appears that Broodlord and Fester are a little bit stronger. And I think part of it, Oliveira just clearly never got much done out on the field. Like, he wasn't able to cut into SHIN's economy. He wasn't able... 15 hatch. Wow, that's so quick. Like, a little bit less minerals to build a hatchery. And you can get it started. I think Zerg players will supplement the slightly less larva they'll be getting from queens by having even quicker hatcheries. Not that shutting down the first 3 hatcheries is a big goal in really any matchup, but we'll see how it shakes out. But the patch mostly affecting Terran versus Protoss, and to an extent, Zerg versus Protoss, with the Protoss changes to overcharge. And we do have some matches with heroes, so just keep staying tuned in. Not today. Well, probably not today, you don't know. But from the same tournament, the big, the LiuLi Cup, not the big LiuLi Cup. They're described by size and how many players, so just a smaller group. But Hero did play in the group as well, so we'll be checking out probably Hero versus Oliveira very soon. I'll be honest, when I got the games, I didn't realize it was on the new patch. Only, we did restart this cast because I noticed, like 3 minutes in, like, wait a second. I think it was the first scan, actually, that gave it away. The colored outline on it. That made it kind of suspicious. And it is one of my favorite changes, though we still need to work on that mini-map sensor tower. Reaper, here to terrorize the drones. Queen pops out. So, a benefit of getting your second hatch a little quicker. I think SHIN has taken full advantage. You might have to cut a couple drones, but you can get the queen out slightly quicker. Yes, the queen is more costly, but being able to start the hatchery quicker allows you to finish it and start a queen quicker, like if you time it out. So this may allow Zergs to have a queen out by the time the Reaper actually shows up, as opposed to a few seconds later after the drones get bullied. It was borderline here, but that may be one of the small but reverberating implications of the early game. It is. Changing the cost of the hatchery and the queen is the smallest big change, I think, could be made to Zerg. The queen, the staple of early, mid, and to an extent late game Zerg in every matchup. Even ZVZ. Actually, a lot of the time, very much ZVZ. Being a different cost. And hatcheries, you know, hatcheries being slightly cheaper will change things. How? I think the change, like the 25 minerals, is almost impossible to tell, but all the little details will be slightly shifted. And anybody's guess which way. I think it's in there. Like, you might get a little bit more early, but between queens being slightly more costly, well, and spores doing more damage. You might be like, well, spores are good. You're going to be a little more reliant on spores. And the spores kill a drone when you build them. They're not 75 minerals. They're 125 with the drone. Plus, however much that drone would have mined, assuming it was a industrious one. Overlord wandered in. But everyone fighting against spore crawlers is going to have to readjust. It's going to take 3 less hits to kill an oracle. I don't know why. I feel like the spore crawler should not be better against oracles, but that's another matchup, another day. Banshees, on the other hand, I think will continue to circumvent spores even if they're in the mineral line. They have that little bit extra range to work with. Though detection is going to be the most relevant part, as Cloak is on the way. I'm begging one of you to remember that you're playing a patch with entirely new or significantly changed upgrades, please, guys. There is a well, it's not... I don't think they know nothing about it. But notoriously, Korean players, especially, have kind of been tuned out to changes until they're actually in the game. I remember casting some years ago a match with Beyond where he didn't realize, like a map contest sort of match, and he didn't realize he was on an island. Like, the map started on an island. This is a while back. Obviously, it never made the ladder, but until he tried to explain, he's like, wait a second. Of course, as a Terran, you can adapt, but, well. Brenda, why do they get to fly and we don't? In fact, we cost more minerals now. How does that, like, what do we get in return? Existential dread, Susan. That was dark. No, it's SHIN. Baneling nest on the way. Lined up with the lair. Oliveira adding a second factory on. I want to talk about the Hellion Blue Flame changes as well. So if you got a second factory. They do not affect the Hellbat. It's not extra damage for the Hellbat. But it is quite a buff to Hellions with Blue Flame. I don't think it changes the math on how many hits it takes to kill a Zergling. But killing workers reliably in 2 hits, including SCVs, that's just a lot of damage. It's going to be even potentially helpful against Zealots. And Hydralisks to an extent. Now, I don't think Blue Flame Hellions are going to become, like the Hellions, not the Hellbats. I don't think they're going to become a staple of this matchup for reasons that are very apparent here on the screen. Lings and Banelings. But an interesting choice. And, do the depot repair thing! No. Well. so the depot now goes to 500 HP. I'll be honest, I don't know if it gained HP before. I'm pretty sure it didn't, but it starts at 400, so. Hydralisk range on the way. Mass Marines. It's going to be an M&M build. Marines, medevacs, and mines. Drilling claws on the way. Really leaning on the mobile Terran options. Already dropping out. Wow. Oh, no, 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 no. Okay. It's fine. Stop freaking out. Oh, no, 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 no. Well, that lasted 2 seconds. Oh, my. Wow. Wow. Incredible target fire from Oliveira. Knocks out 4 or 5 Banes. The Widow Mine to the south side obliterated the Terrans as well. Is Hydralisk speed on the way? No. Hydralisk speed is nerfed by about 5% on creep, but only on creep, because every unit, most apparent in the Queen, has a different multiplier based on different things on how they're on creep, so that's just how it be. Meanwhile, the mines, thinnings. Queens caught on the wrong side as well. The Banshee's heading their damage in, but the Banelings roll through, and there's nothing left to pick up. Oliveira down 15 supply. Gonna press the issue to the south, though. Ooh, guns down a Hydra. And gonna try to pick off a couple more Banes. Make that 3, 4, 5 of them off a creep. Easy enough to do so. 2-2 upgrades closing in for both sides. Oh my, it's target practice. Though missing a few. He's doing a good job so far. And actually, those Hydras are so slow. That's just how they are, all right? That's nothing to do with the patch. I think it's because of the fancy skin. They look even slower. The Zerglings trying to drag the Widow Mines in by Oliveira on burrows. Drilling Claws helping out both ways. Gonna pull back. He knows the mines are there. Trying to split the Zerglings up. Does a good job of it. Diffuses the bomb as best he can and then cleans them up. Ghost Academy's now on the way. Infestation Pit just started for shit. A lot of action here. But still, neither player really doing anything that has to do with the new patch. Terran versus Zerg. The more it changes, the more it stays the same. Well, Marines and Marauders are hung out to dry here, but there's only a couple Banelings with this army. If he can thin it out. Now the Banelings just wander forward, gunned down easily by the Marines and Marauders, and now the hatchery itself, he can easily pick up and get out. Knocks it out again at the 6 o'clock. Brendan, no! Sorry. Moving on. Hydras chasing down the medevacs. And the medevacs making it a lot easier for him. But meanwhile, the mines still finding a lot of damage. 2 medevacs down with almost all hands. More Widow Mines will burrow, though, to drive things. But the concussive shell almost keeping the Zergling in range for long enough. Another exchange. Ghost, he's got some Hellions on the way. No. Hive has started. Whoa. Widow Mine hits are good. Oliveira, despite taking hits, it's all been on SHIN's side of the map. Every bit of this aggression. There's been no counterattack. There's been no denying the 4th or even the 5th command centers. And now there's like 7 and 8 command centers coming together. The 8 barracks, double factory starport completed. And Oliveira actually has more workers. So he's continuing to grind his way across the map. And SHIN needs lurkers or some miracle in order to drive this back. Or he's just going to get ground down into Zergy pulp. All right. Wait, is the miracle Hydra dash? Oh my. Those Widow Mines, dangerous. Finally, a counterattack, but there should be enough reinforcements to defend with ease. And there it is. Finally! Unless he's making a big battlecruiser switch. Well, we got a big fight here where Oliveira is kind of overwhelmed. He still has the opportunity to pick out and get out, but the fusion core is on the way. And advanced ballistics must be the choice. I will be unreasonably upset if he doesn't go advanced ballistics. Nidus on the way. Lurker range. Widowmine's looking for an opportunity. No smart servos. Do it. Do it. Advanced ballistics on the way. Now we'll see if losing less than one range is worth having 56% larger radius. Yes, trigonometry is a bitch. And well, the Zerglings and Banelings trying to get through. Some snipes coming out. There's a Nidus in the main base, and the whoa! Terrible, terrible damage to both sides. Oliveira again getting caught. No response at all to the Nidus worm in the main. I don't know if there are lurkers in there, but the overlapping Venn diagram of freedom will at least keep the reinforcements alive, but the lurkers are inside of the main base. All right, those are your stock Liberators. Just take note. Just get a feel for it. Those are your normal Liberators here. Still, SHIN, no adrenal glands, no Hydra Dash. But advanced ballistics is 15 seconds out. Will it be the ticket to turn things around? He still doesn't have smart servos. They're not tied in. Two different upgrades, all right, it's a lot of work. But advanced ballistics is now completed. I don't think it affects Liberators that are already sieged. I'm not exactly sure. But we're about to experience our very first new liberation. So, I'm assuming, unless there's something very dramatic, assuming we get a game 3, that this will be today's clickbait. As the Liberator change is by far the most... Oh my god. Alright. Liberators, the main thing you should notice, it's hard not to, is that they take up pretty much every choke point. One Liberator can cover an entire choke point and then some. Quite reliable. The two units that everybody loves fighting against. Ghosts and Liberators. And Widowmines. The 3 units everybody loves. The Hydras, cosplaying an anti-air unit. Unfortunately, cosplay doesn't actually make you an anti-air unit, as the Liberators are proving. Lurkers, doing their best. The overlapping and enlarged Venn diagram. The embiggened Liberator is certainly quite a thing. Not exactly sure how you're supposed to fight that. So, while the radius is the range is very technically less, that really only matters in the very edge cases, like the literal edge of the map. Oh, he's getting it! Finally! Hydra! Jimmy, I need the tooltips. I don't know if the tooltips are even set up to read it. Oh, wow, they just copied the campaign. It literally just says Frenzy. But it goes faster for a short time, so maybe that's the ticket. Just lurch your Hydras into Liberator range. Or into range of the Liberators. Da, da, da. All right, it's time. Get out. Get them out of the game. That's enough. Liberation is at hand. Hell yeah, brother. Oh, but what if he gets the Hydra speed upgrade? Uh-huh. Yeah, good luck with that one. He's got... Do it! Do the thing! Do the Hydra dash! Not that it... Does it really matter here? Oh, he Hydra dashed. So it isn't like Stim. It doesn't give you attack speed. But, alright, well, the Liberators will die to Parabomb. But they did win the fight. Well, that was about as poor as that ever could have gone for Oliveira. He unsieged and then re-sieged all his Liberators within parasitic bomb range of each other, which was just pretty lazy in my opinion. Some more scans somewhere. Spots the bases. But, yeah. Well, SHIN's still making Hydras and Lynx, and he still doesn't have adrenal glands, which certainly is not helping these late-game fights. But there are... The Liberator count was reset. He's down... He lost 14 Liberators, which is an impressive feat. But SHIN does not have the economy to transition here. The Whittle Mines... Oh my. The Liberator's just kind of left by the wayside. He didn't get the Smart Servos upgrade to siege him up faster. Clearly, what was missing there. Gonna get angry at the Vipers. Those are changelings. Another scan. There are 6 orbital commands, so... Okay, I could do the caster. Oh, it could be close. The Liberator, he's fighting with the Hydras. Lurkers coming up. Yanks a couple of Liberators out of the way. Hydras doing their best to fight on the front lines. But unfortunately, he's super fucking dead. GGG. He agrees. Oliveira strikes back from downtown and all around with the ridiculous and absolutely obscene and appallingly large Liberator range. I think it's dumb. All right. Those are my thoughts. But we're all tied up. It is clear that SHIN at least does know that some of these upgrades and changes exist. So, which ones would have helped him kill those Liberators? No, that was it. That was the only change made to Zerg that gives them potentially more anti-air capability, was the Hydra can now... You might have missed it. It's because it lasts about half a second. A little over half a second. The Hydra Lurch, it isn't stim. If you don't read it closely, it seems like it's stim. On a 10-second cooldown, you can lurch forward for 0.7 seconds. That's 60% speed buff for that amount of time. So here's the troubling part. Troubling is maybe a bit strong, but the annoying part is Hydras do not have spellcaster priority. So Hydras are a unit that you'd have to hotkey separately than your Ravagers, then your Queens, then your Vipers, your Infestors. Almost every other Zerg unit, if you're selecting them in a group, comes first. It's like the Protoss problem of you have to cast an entire spell book, and each unit should be hotkeyed separately, but good luck doing that all in the midst of a massive fight. So, I think the ability is interesting, but it doesn't really make any sense to have on the Hydra. The Liberator range is ridiculous and patently, like, what? Make siege tanks do more single target damage with like a late game upgrade or something. Advanced ballistics now allows siege tanks to do 20, like plus 20 single target damage, or plus 20 versus massive to help counter ultras or archons, for example, instead of relying entirely on Ghost Liberator. And yes, for these new patch games, I debated when I realized for the first time, I didn't even know it was new patch as I mentioned, but I'm not going to be neutral. I am not neutral on the new patch. I think some of the changes make no sense and are clearly biased. Some of the changes are interesting, but make no sense in the context of the patch. Some of the changes are pretty good. Honestly, one change I like is the sensor tower. The sensor tower, I think it opens up an opportunity to, say, nerf orbital commands in other ways. The sensor tower being much cheaper, but with a smaller radius, gives you an early warning system that isn't just map hacking from orbit. I don't like the ability to salvage it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, being able to salvage your defenses minus a 25% restocking fee feels quite ridiculous. The Zerglings are waiting. I don't know. That feels like somebody was looking through the campaign upgrades and was picking out things that would make Terran fun. Don't worry, I'll get into the Protoss ones in probably our next video, so tune in on that one. We're not even going to touch it today. Unlike these Zerglings touching the tech lab. Well, a lot of damage being done. The Queen's chasing down. The thing is, the add-ons are on the wrong side of the map here. Do the depot drop thing! Oh no, he didn't do the depot drop, and now the SCVs are kind of stuck. So the orbital command, instead of having a better ability, here's my proposal. Orbital commands now grant 1 supply, more than the command center, but they also cost 1 supply. All right? So in order to have 14 orbital commands in the late game, you must have 14 less army supply. That is how I would handle the turtling to orbitals. Also, I propose ghosts at 3 supply. Nothing else. No other change. I admit, ghosts are very important in the late game, and until we have another look, I think Broodlord Infestor. Why are we buffing the Broodlord? Why are we buffing the Broodlord? How many times do we have to go through this? And if we're gonna buff the Broodlord, don't buff the Broodling. Make it, like, better instant attack damage, as opposed to the Broodling itself. Because otherwise, that is how we got. That was the worst meta in StarCraft 2 history. Broodlord and well, Swarmhost, but noticing a trend. A whole bunch of units that make it a real pain to actually do anything on the map and feel like you can't really engage. So, I would focus on the cool units. Siege tanks, Vikings. I like Hellbats. I think Hellbats have more of a place. I'd like if Hellbats had more armor and less damage, like a tank. Not a tank, but like something that can stand on the front line without incinerating the entire enemy. It is cool when it does that, but it doesn't feel like its role should be like the bulwark front line. But speaking of front line, there's nothing to stop these Marines. A few roaches, the drones, the queens. How did we not see this? Shut up, Susan! Shut up! Shut up! Just transfuse! Well, the classic walk up and kill everything with Marine strat goes okay. And he kills a whole bunch of drones. 15 in total so far. But he doesn't get the hatch and he doesn't get too many queens. So it could have been worse. As for Zerg, I would not buff the Broodlord. I would not be sitting there. I think Spines could use a buff. I think Spines should benefit from melee attack upgrades. Okay? I don't know if that's balanced, but I think it would make sense. I would like that. The roaches. Driven back. The way to buff Spines and Spores, well, I don't think you buff Spines and Spores. I think that's silly. Like, especially if the goal, which the stated goal. Once again, go check my patch video. My general thoughts have not changed at all on it, and I haven't watched too many games, obviously, and pro gamers don't seem to be really leaning into it too much. I mean, there's money on the line. You stick with what you know, as opposed to trying something completely new. I'm excited to see some players who break outside of the box just a bit. But if I had my way, I once again, not touching Protoss, we'd ignore the Liberator change. Just make advanced ballistics worse. All right? It can be nerfed. You can just nerf it. And also, do the bug fix on the Broodlord, apparently, if it was buffed. But don't buff it. Does it need to be buffed? I don't think so. Especially if the Liberator is not as strong, you don't need as much range to deal with ghosts. If Protoss is... Well, Protoss versus... Once again, we're not touching. But I think it's very silly to be buffing the Broodlord instead of, you know, more mid-game options. Like the Muta! The Muta! Instead of buffing the Muta, we got a Thor who murders mutas even more. Like, well, what about Protoss dealing with mutas? Protoss doesn't really deal with mutas because they open Stargate every single game against Zerg, so... Not... a muta buff, for the most part, would be relevant to Terran versus Zerg. I think mutas are the coolest Zerg unit. Yes, I'm entirely biased. Alright, I would 10 games in a row rather build mutas than a single game with Turtle Broodlord. The Broodlords were a bit more like Guardians in StarCraft 1, which is, from my understanding, rarely used except for niche, fun strategies. I'd be okay with it. Problem is, mutas just suck too much and die too easy, and cost way too much as well. They die to a strong glance from most Terran armies, since essentially every army has incredible amounts of anti-muta built in. Ghost Thors, Marines, even Cyclones are pretty good. Widow Mines. My precious muta. Well, there's a game going on, but so far, besides that super early Marine strike force, hasn't been too much. Besides the constant sitting at the edge of the creep harassment. Both sides have made it to the later game, approaching 200 supply. Got Vipers on the way, which means, oh my god, he remembered. For the first time in this series, out of 3 games going high, Adrenal Glands on the way for SHIN. Oh, watch out! Well, I guess he watched. He's like, it'll be fine. There's no other... Oh, you gonna show us the Ultras? Very cool. The Ultras, even though I think the push priority change of Ultras is mostly just gonna get him killed more often, at least it should. I've played with them a little bit. It does feel less clunky for a massive unit the size of a building. They no longer get jostled around too much by the Roach Ravager. They're the jostler themselves. But you do have to survive for long enough to use them, and that's a lot of tanks sitting on the low ground. That beautiful spread. I can't believe it's not butter. Upgrades finishing. +2 Carapace is on the way, +1 melee. Remarkably no upgrades here. That Baneling Nest is in a bit of a precarious position, right at the front of the third. No, goes for the Bane Nest, but here come the Vipers, blinding the tanks, left, right, and center. Only one tank remains firing, another one sieges up, but just trickles all the way through. The Roachling Bane crushing the army on the field. No answer to the Vipers. And Oliveira dies there. He overstayed his welcome. Not hard, because he wasn't welcome at all, but gets absolutely crushed and has to retreat. No fusion core, no liberators on the way. Ghosts, still a very strong option, but we'll see if they're enough against the new and more angry Ultralisk. Again, well, the changes to the Ultras just mean it can close the distance easier because it pushes other units out of the way. It's a bit of a RTS pathfinding technicality as opposed to like a direct stat line buff. SHIN, oh my. He's got all his units stuck in. The Ultra's out in front. The Ghosts get a beat on them. More shots. Just kind of rolling in. And there's just not enough energy. The Liberators are sieging up. Might be able to knock one out. There's another Ultra. But it's a numbers game. There's just not enough Ghosts with enough energy to deal with this wave. He lost too many forces. Another Ultra down. There's... Finally picks off the Liberators. Actually, Oliveira starting to stabilize. He's only now taking any sort of economic damage. SHIN went straight for the center. He went down the third. He killed a couple dozen SCVs, but Oliveira's already replacing him. But he's knocked down another 50 supply. He doesn't really have any more Ghosts or Liberators on the way. And I think the lack of Liberators is a bit... Yes, he's up against Vipers. But they were so effective last game. In this game, leaning more on the siege tanks. But the siege tanks are eye level with the Ultras. And with Blinding Cloud involved, well, they can't see. I don't know if Oliveira can survive another onslaught. He just doesn't have the army composition together yet. The Ultras ready to bash through. The Ghosts caught out in front. No cloak and no energy anyways. Cloven in twain. The planetary ripped apart. And the Ultras mostly unchallenged on the field. Now, the planetary, as well as orbitals, at Oliveira, it's just too much. The Lings overrunning, the supply dipping. GG. And GG. SHIN takes it. Not exactly the most comprehensive demonstration of the changes in the new patch, but we saw a few key moments. And I do think Terran versus Zerg throughout most of the game, at least. We're going to see some more Broodlords. We're going to see some more Liberators, but especially up until that later game phase, it'll remain mostly unchanged. And especially with these players. But what did you think? And strong feelings, opinions in the comments. I still stand by my statements from the patch video. I hope I'm wrong, but so far not really seeing anything that disputes it strongly, but I'm sure we'll get many more examples and data points here in the coming weeks. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made your day a little bit better. I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Got the means of motivation. Awesome. And check out Patreon if you get a chance. Check out these LiuLi cups pretty much every week at this point. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.
Hell, it's about